In this quick video, I will demonstrate how you can use PowerPoint and probably Excel, actually, and with Excel, to generate the supply and demand curves. And for this example, I just made up two formulas based on the example that was given in Canvas. And it's for a demand curve and a supply curve that you see on the screen. Before you go ahead with this, you'd like to know what the end result is going to look like. And basically, this is how it's going to look like. You will have the two axes, quantity on the x axis and price on the y, and you're going to have the demand curve going down and the supply curve going up. Why do you want to do this on PowerPoint? It's simply because if you have something like this in Paint, for you to change anything, it's going to be a pain. You're going to have to use the eraser and then determine where you're going to place a new thing, and it's just not as flexible and easy as when you're using PowerPoint. And you can see how I'm changing things, I'm editing the text. You can add the formula if you wanted to. For example, in here it's QD equals 300 minus 5P. You would like to go ahead and change where it's positioned. There is a lot of advantage and flexibility in doing that. Anyway, before we move to Excel, the things to remember are: one, the formulas are QD equals and QS equals gives you the impression that the y-axis is the quantity because it's on the left side of the equation. Unfortunately, it's not the case. The quantity is on the x-axis. The price is on the y-axis, and you will see why that is important to remember in a minute. Basically, you're going to do the calculations using the price. The price is going to be your x when you're doing the calculations, so that you can use the formula to generate the quantities. But the graphing is going to be the opposite way, because quantity is on the x-axis. And you will get this in a minute when we do this thing in Excel. So I copied these equations actually from Excel, and I will give you an overview of what the process is going to be. Why Excel? You don't know what the slope of this line is going to be. You'd like things to be proportional. Don't forget that the supply curve as well might be crossing the quantity, the x-axis, or might be crossing the y-axis over there. You don't know what the slope is going to look like. And for the purpose of this exercise, probably it doesn't matter much. You're not going to generate something that accurately looking, but you might as well do it since it's easy. So how are we going to do that? Let's transition to Excel. I highlighted the steps on the left. In here you have the formulas just as I had them shown in PowerPoint, but these are the steps. The first step is you're going to get your numbers, a price column, quantity column for the demand and for the supply, and then you're going to overlap the two, generate the curves, and then you're going to overlap them and format the figure. So let's do that one step at a time. So the first thing is generate the price column, and what I'm going to do is put in the price, and you're going to start with 0. That's if the product has a 0 cost, what is going to be the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied. Of course, the supplied is going to be very low. Nobody would want to generate that. Let me focus on the graphing, because otherwise I might say things that are incorrect. So we'll start with the price of 0. How far, what I want to generate is 1, 2, 3, and how far down would you go? There are ways to calculate where you're going to end your numbers, but for brevity for this video, I will just focus on generating the graphs. So I will go with something simple. and just generate for the first $100, for example. So the easiest way to generate numbers from 0 to 100 in here would be to add a series, and what you're going to do, it's a column, add 1 for each value and end at 100. Press OK. Now I have all the numbers to 100. Let me expand this, make it bigger, and based on that, so generate the price column. Now I need to generate QD and QS, the quantity for demand and the quantity for supply. So what's the quantity for demand? It's equals, just use the formula as it's shown in here on the left. So 300 minus 5 multiplied by the price. And what's the supply? Equals 30 plus 3 multiplied by the price. Enter. Now that I have these two, I'm going to propagate that across, and I have my curves. Remember that the request was not to go in the negative direction, so you don't need the numbers going from here down. I can remove those. And the best way to remove them is not just to hit the delete button. I'm not going to go into Y right now, but right mouse button, delete, and shift cells up so that it doesn't pull the numbers that you have for the other one. Okay, and I of course removed the, by mistake I removed the, so let's do this step after we move the numbers to the new position in the next step. But one thing to remember, to highlight from what just happened, is these numbers are based on formulas. So if you affect anything in here, or if you move things around, the formulas are going to be affected. So remember this for a second. You're going to see what the value of it in the next step. So we generated the price column, we calculated QD and QS. Now we need to prepare the columns for graphing. Remember what I said, that in the generated graph, let's transition again, the quantity is on the x-axis. So you would like your x-axis column, which is a quantity, to be the one on the left in the table you're using to generate the graph, and the price next to it. It's the easiest way to generate the graph. So let's do that. And here we go. So we would say the quantity, I wouldn't do that. I will copy the price. I want it once for the demand, and I want it again for the supply. Now the demand, I'm not going to paste it in the same way, because I will be pasting the formulas as well. I would like just the values, so I'll put values. Now if you click here, you see a formula. If you click here, you see a number, because we pasted it as numbers. And of course I did something wrong, which is I wanted the demand on the left. So I can switch these in a second. Let me insert a column in here, and let's put the supply, copy, and paste this in here as numbers again. And what I'm going to do is generate a space and move this, cut and paste it here. All right, so now that we have our columns in the way that we want them, so this is going to be for the demand, this is going to be for the supply, I can generate the graphs. All right, so now that we have these are the, remember that these are the columns that we are going to use for graphing. We don't need this part anymore. And we can even go ahead and delete it if we want to. Delete it just to create more space. Delete. All right, so where are we? Prepare the graphing columns. We're done with that. Now we generate, not format, we generate them first. We generate the graphs and then we format them. So the first one is the demand curve. So I'm going to insert, use the recommended one, and it is this one. And what you're seeing here is that the quantity is going on the negative side. You don't want that. So now let's go scroll down and see where the the quantity is going on the negative side, and it's here. And when you do your calculations, you're going to see that this is the intercept for the graph, but I will not go in there because I want to focus on the drawing only. But we don't need this data, and what I'm going to do is Control Shift down. I'm going to right mouse button click and delete, not just delete button, because that will have a different effect if you're going to use the columns for the graphing. And shift cells up. Okay, now I have these two. Insert recommended chart, and here you go. So that's your demand curve. I'll put this here. I'll do the same thing for the supply curve. So insert recommended chart, and this is your supply curve. I will put that down here. And what you can easily do, there are so many ways of course to doing things, but the easiest thing to do now is to copy this. So I hit Control C, go to this image, and I hit Control V, and now I have the two overlapping. So let me scroll to the side and zoom in to see what I'm going to do next to format this. I don't need the chart title, I don't need the grid lines, and I don't need the labels to show up. So I'm going to go to format, and I think it's here, labels. I don't need labels. I don't need these labels. It's up to you, of course, if you want to leave them. And these lines are jagged. It's because the markers are there, which you don't need. You just need the line, not the markers, so none. But you need the line, of course, which is you go to the line in here, and it's a solid line. And in here as well, we don't need the markers, we need the line. So solid line and markers, no marker. How did we do it? Yeah, here, none. Now you have the two, but of course you probably need it in a different color. So all you need to do is change the color. Why is it not in the color that we're looking for? So that's a marker, border fill, solid fill. No. Oh yeah, because I'm still hitting on the marker. Oh, okay. So what we need to do is actually hit on the line and change the color of it. If that is, oh, come on. You need to be able to hit the whole line, and in line in here, going to hit this. So this is usually I would color this a little reddish and the supply green or blue, doesn't matter. Anyway, now that you have this is your basic graphing, and it's accurate. So any numbers that you put in here, here, and there are going to be proportional, are going to be accurate. And all I'm going to do next is, I don't need this graph anymore. I will copy this, Control C, and I will go to my PowerPoint in a new slide, and I will paste this. Well, I will not paste it like that with Control P. I would like to paste it as an image, as a picture. I don't want PowerPoint to be involved anymore. It's going to be in the back, and all I'm going to do then is just for reference, let me put this in here. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put in the labels that I need. You see that line in the outside? I don't want that, so I'll delete this, go back to Excel, and in here I would like to make sure that in the format that the shape outline is none. That way when I copy it, Control C, go to PowerPoint and paste it here as an image, it pastes without that border, because if I wanted a border I'll just put a box around this. That's the easiest way to do it. So now I can insert my shapes, my labels the way that I want them. So this is going to be the quantity or Q, whatever you want to, however you want to label things. Quantity, and I will do one for the price, for just my convenience. I will copy this and do it in this way, and then change this to price. Okay, and then here are the interesting things that I can do in PowerPoint very easily. One is if I'm inserting lines to highlight specific points. Look at this. So insert and shapes line. I can put in a line here for the equilibrium point and drop it down exactly to where I want to put it. Now when I'm shaping the formatting the shape, in the shape outline I can choose the weight of that line so I can emphasize it, and I will do this again. Shape outline, I will go into dashes and I will make it an interrupted line in whichever shape I want. I will go to the shape outline and change its color to something else, and then of course I can insert a label for that spot. I can insert a text box to put in the number that will go with it. Let's just put 00 now, so that we remember to adjust it when we do our calculations. And we can have a different line, insert another shape line, and again from the equilibrium point to the y-axis, and again dashes, and change the weight of that line, emphasize it the way you want, and change the color. I mean, this level of flexibility and control, you're not going to have that if you are doing this stuff in Excel, in Paint. That would be a pain. So I would double this, duplicate it, and put it in here. Now you go do your formula calculations and you put in your numbers. For you need a label as well for Control D. You need a number for this guy in here. Control D. You need a number for this guy here. Control C, Control V. You need a number for this guy over here. And that would be your graphing for, oh yeah, and of course you need to label your demand. Just for brevity, I'm going to copy these, uh, or we can just generate them. Insert, shapes, label. So that's your demand curve. Or however, whichever way you want to label it, it's a D or demand, or you put in the formula. You do it the way that you would like to do it. I duplicated it, changing the orientation, and then supply. You got your labels. So supply, demand, the equilibrium point. Probably we should add one here. Let's insert and line, sorry, text box, and it's your E or equilibrium, whatever way you want to call it. And don't forget to do your calculations and change these zeros to what it should be. And one interesting thing in doing it this way is if you flip back to Excel, what is this point, for example? This is quantity of 0, and this is a supply curve. So if you go to your supply curve and you and you look at the, so this is the price for the quantity of 0 in the demand curve. Sorry, it's a demand curve. So the red one is the demand curve. So if you go down all the way to 0, it's 60. So this point is going to be 60. I can, when you do your calculations for the equation that I had on the screen, this is going to be 60. And what about this curve? It's a demand curve where the price is 0, and that is price equals 0 on the demand curve, which is the quantity is 300. So flipping back to PowerPoint, this point is 300. And if you do the calculations the way that it was explained, you will get these same numbers. But it's really nice to see them on the table as well. This number is the supply curve where it's hitting the price of 0. So supply, price of 0. So flip back to Excel. It's a price when the what do we say, the supply where the price is 0. So we're here, it's 30. So quantity of 30 when the price is 0. So it's this guy over here is going to be 30. Not this guy, of course, yeah. It didn't make sense immediately because I can't have 300 here and this is 30 when this is a 0. So I immediately recognized I was doing something wrong. 30 is here. This is 0 and 0. So you got it and you know how to do your equilibrium point. Next question is, how are you going to do the new supply curve? There are two ways of doing this. One is you can just regenerate your supply data and follow the same steps, or you can super embed that, as in you generate the data for the new supply curve and then you super embed that on the curve that we generated in Excel, and then you put it back in here and you label everything. But basically the main reason I'm using Excel is to have everything in proportion. I'm using PowerPoint because I would like to have the flexibility of labeling and moving things and changing the font and the colors and everything. It just makes life easier for me. I hope this was useful. Thank you.